Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Code Talker Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for post Ghosts from the Past, the second haunting. With the release of the newest Ghosts from the Past, we were given new support for the Cyberse deck in the form of Decode Talker Heat Soul, which my belief is the combination of Salmon Great Heat Leo and Decode Talker, showing the friendship between Yusaku or Playmaker and Soul Burner. It's a really awesome card that definitely does help with just summoning out all the many different Code Talkers we have, and the playstyle to continue summoning out all the different attributes. And with it being a fire attribute with the Signet Codec playstyle, we don't have to run Power Code Talker anymore. I would definitely say it's a better setup card than Power Code Talker to rely on. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. We also did get some new main deck cards for the deck, so let's go ahead and start off first with the main deck coder monsters. We're running 3 of the micro coder. This has definitely been a 3 of since it was released. If a Cyberse monster would be used as link material for a Code Talker monster, and this card's in your hand, you can use it as material. And if this card is sent from the field or hand to the graveyard as material for a Code Talker monster, you can either add 1 Signet spell or trap from your deck to your hand, or if it was on the field and used, you can use it to add a level 4 Cyberse monster. So search power with this card altogether, but the best setup would be to use this card to then search out your main go-to search power card, which is your continuous spell, Signet Codec, all the more useful to then set that card up early game. For one of the other 3 ofs that I run 3 Code Radiator. Once again, being able to be used from your hand if you were to summon out a Code Talker monster from the extra deck. And also, if it's sent from the hand, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, change its attack to 0. And if it was on the field, you can also use 2 monsters instead of 1. And you also negate their effects. All the more powerful with this card as a 3 of, since it can also be used from the hand. And it's a water attribute monster, so you can search this card off when you have Signet Codec set up on the field to then add one of your uses when making Shooting Code Talker to search and add this card to your hand. We also run 2 of the new cards from the Ghosts from the Past, and that is Code Exporter. Not only is this card a win monster, meaning you can search it when you summon out cards like X Code Talker with Signet Codec, but also being able to use it from the hand like Code Radiator and also Microcoder. And also with this card, you can target 1 level 4 lower Cyberse monster in your graveyard, add to your hand, or if it was on the field, you can special summon that monster instead. It's a little more difficult to utilize this card for the special summon, but being able to recycle some other Code Talker useful searchers and just other level 4 lower Cyberse monsters from our graveyard back to our hand for us to re-special summon just keeps the plays going in this deck altogether. I only run 2 of this card though. I feel 2 is all you need for that setup, but still a great card to utilize for those extra deck summons without having to summon it onto the field. And the last one of the code monsters being Code Generator. This one sets up cards in your graveyard, being able to send a Cyberse monster with 1200 or less attack from your deck to the graveyard, and it can also be used as a link summon for a Code Talker from your hand, just like the other ones. And if it was on the field, you can add that card to your hand instead of sending it. But being able to send another card means you can set up cards like your Dotscaper in the graveyard to special summon onto the field. And with Code Generator being an Earth monster, you can search it when you summon out Transcode Talker and Signet Codec is on the field. For more of the other search power in the deck, I also run 3 Lady Debug. When it's normal or special summon, you can add 1 level 3 or lower Cyberse monster from your deck to your hand. Being able to search out cards like Microcoder or even Code Generator can set up the play right then and there, because Lady Debug can just be a normal summon, and then you have your search to then go into one of the link to Cyberse Code Talker monsters, which I can go over some of the plays at the end of the video also. For some other 3 ofs, I also run 3 Cyberse Gadget. When it's normal summon, you can target 1 level 2 or lower monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense position, but its effects are negated. And if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Gadget token onto the field, which is another card just to make use of as a monster on the field. And being able to then also just summon out a Lingaribo using Lady Debug or Cyberse Gadget if their plays are interrupted is an added option, because then you'll still get the token out on the field to then go into another Link 2 monster. I also run 3 Bouncer Lord just as another additional normal summon monster to pay 1,000 life points to gain an additional normal summon in addition to your original normal summoner set. And if it's banished, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower monster from your hand, keeping the plays going since cards like Lady Debug can be special summoned and still gain the search effect. For some of the lower numbers for the monsters I run in the deck, I also run 2 Widget Kid. You can just extend your plays more and more with Widget Kid being able to summon this card out, and then special summon out your Bouncer Lord, then pay the additional 1,000 off of Bouncer Lord to gain another summon, or just have the Link 2 right there using these 2 cards. I also run 2 Parallel Exceed for the option of being able to special summon this card out of the field and then gain another additional Parallel Exceed. Only running 2 though in the deck, I feel that's all you need for the play, and also being able to have this Win monster as a search. You wanted to run a good number of different attribute monsters in the deck, with light being a good majority, but still having the code monsters being the different search power for all of these cards as well. And I also run, for the additional one-ofs in the deck, the 1 Backup Secretary for more of the additional special summon on the field, and another card that can be recycled on the field back into the deck, thanks to cards like your Code Exporter. Also, the 1 Nightmare Corruptor Ibly for special summoning Link monsters back onto the field to make use of. The 1 Sea Archiver, if you wanted to run an additional fire monster, because the 1 for the Code Talker Heat Soul in the deck, you can always take this card out and run Flame Buffalo as the 1 additional Link 1 play to use with Lingaribo, and also have a fire monster to search out for when you use Code Talker Heat Soul. It's player preference there. I just like Sea Archiver for the more special summon play, and the fact that your Flame Buffalo will really only come in handy when you can summon it out onto the field using cards like Bouncer Lord or your Widget Kid, because you don't want to leave it out on the lone on the field unless you were to use it as a Link summon with one of the code monsters in your hand as well. But once again, Flame Buffalo would be the spot you take out for Sea Archiver or the Cyber's Converter, so you have a fire search target for your Code Talker Heat Soul. I also run the 1 Dotscaper set up with Code Generator, and the 1 Link Infaflyer, another win search when you use and summon out your X-Code Talker if you already have the play to use with your Code Exporter in your hand. And that is it for the main deck monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. One of the most important spells in the Code Talker deck is Signet Codec. It's a continuous spell. If a Code Talker monster is special summon from your extra deck to your field, except during the damage step, you can target one of those monsters, add 1 Cyber's monster with the same attribute from your deck to your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except for Cyber's monsters. And if this card leaves the field, you cannot add other monsters with that same attribute to your hand by the effect of Signet Codec. So you can activate this card multiple times in a turn. You just can't add the same attribute. So if you add a light attribute, you can't add a light attribute again, dark, etc. using this card. But really, really useful. It's searchable with your microcoder. So once again, if you search that card off of Lady Debug and go for the Link 2 right then and there, sending it from the hand to the graveyard will allow you to add this card and then just continue your Cyber's plays. And for the additional 3-ofs, I also run 3 Signet Mining. This card is just more additional search. The one bad thing about it is you can't search out the new Code Exporter, sadly, since it is a level 5 monster, but you have plenty of search to add this card to your hand. The big play with Signet Mining is just adding some of the more initial setup monsters from your deck to your hand that you want to make use of. And for some of the other cards in the deck, I run 1 Signet Optimization. This card is also searchable thanks to cards like Microcoder. And once again, don't forget, Signet Mining is also searchable with this card. But Optimization gives you an additional normal summon. So going off of the Flame Buffalo play, you can have that additional normal summon if this card's already set up on the field along with that card. And I also run 2 World Legacy Succession. You have plenty of Link monsters to summon to their arrows where they point to on the field using this card, and just keep the resources going with this card also, especially when you can summon back some of your Link 2 Code Talker monsters on the field. And I also run the 1 one-time passcode and the 1 Monster Reborn special summoning options as a tuner and other monsters on the field back from the graveyard. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. We're running 1 of the new Decode Talker Heat Soul. You need 2 or more Cyber's monsters with different attributes. That can be easily done in this deck with all the different attributes we're running. It gains 500 attack for each monster it points to. And a quick effect, you can pay 1,000 life points to draw 1 card. Then if your life points are 2,000 or less, you can apply this effect. Banish this card from the field. And if you do, special summon 1 Link 3 or lower Cyber's monster from your extra deck, except for Decode Talker Heat Soul. You can only use this effect of Decode Talker Heat Soul once per turn. So you have a plenty good enough variety in the deck to search out using this card. Sadly, it says Link 3 or lower, so no access code special summoning off of this card, but plenty to make use of with this card and its effect to pay 1,000 life points to draw 1 card. Being able to then have the 2,000 or less for this play, and also you can only use this effect of Heat Soul once per turn, but still a great way to utilize all the different extra deck monsters in the deck. For the other Code Talker monsters, I also run the 1 Transcode Talker, 1 Xcode Talker, Talker, one Shooting Code Talker, along with one Code Talker Inverted, and one Code Talker. You have all the attributes taken care of, along with Decode Talker Heat Soul, being Earth, Wind, Water, Light, and Dark, and then Fire, along with Decode Talker Heat Soul. Just my preferred options. I don't really like Decode Talker and Encode Talker as much as their Link 2 counterparts, because they're easier to make and start initial plays with Cyanet Codec on the field. And then Xcode Talker and Transcode Talker just to, provide additional protection when they're co-linked with one another. And Shooting Code helps just to search out more of the water options we run in the deck altogether. For the other Link monsters, I run the one Access Code Talker. Once again, this can be used as a Dark Attribute search with Cyanet Codec to search out a Dark Attribute monster, but it's mostly in here as your final boss monster to hit for some pretty big numbers against your opponent and also destroy their cards by banishing the different attribute monsters you may have for your Link monsters in this deck. I also run the one Splash Mage. Now, Splash Mage comes in handy being able to target a Cyber monster in your graveyard, special summon in defense, but negates effects. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn except for Cyber monsters. So, with this card, you can tribute it out with your Decode Talker Heat Soul, and then use Splash Mage, as long as you have the other target, to discard Code Exporter to the graveyard, special summoning it on the field, and then gaining the additional Link summon of that card, and the special summon from Code Exporter since it was already on the field to begin with. I also run one of the new Brute Enforcer. It's another way to destroy cards on the field, so I like it for the Link 2 option. Just needing 2 effect monsters and discarding a card. To target a face-up card your opponent controls, or your opponent can discard one card with the same original type, monster, spell, and trap as that face-up card to negate the effect, otherwise destroy that face-up card. Like I said, destruction is something we really needed in this deck, and that's where Brute Enforcer comes in handy. Also, one Penistag and one Security Dragon for additional Link 2 monsters to summon out, and great ones to co-link with cards like Transcode Talker and Xcode Talker. And also one Linkuriboh and one Linkuriboh. For the Link 1 plays with Dotscaper is what I like Linkuriboh for, as another Link monster option to set up in the graveyard. And Linkuriboh with the level 4 monsters when you only have that one monster to go for and to stop your opponent's traps. And then to finish off the Link monsters, one IP Masquerena and one Topologic Bomber Dragon. I don't run any of the Synchros, Fusions, or Xyz in this deck just because they're more of an option for the Firewall Dark Fluid Dragon. This deck solely focuses on the setup for the Code Talker monsters, and that's why the entire extra deck are just Link monsters. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck, setting up your Link 3 Code Talker Heat Soul and being more of a late game card for that setup, if you go for the initial Link play and have the variety of Code Talker monsters at your arsenal in your hand, depending on which one you have or which one you even searched for with the one card startup combo with cards like Lady Debug, you can summon out your Lady Debug, gain the additional search for your microcoder, and then use the 2 cards to go into your Link play using the 2, having the option then for the summon, you can summon out your Code Talker onto the field and use the play since Microcoder was sent to the graveyard to set up your Cyanet Codec on the field. With Cyanet Codec, every time you use a Link play, you'll gain the additional search with your Code Talker on the field and your Lady Debug. If you have the additional search power for your monsters, you can even use the additional ones you had in your hand, or if you had one additional setup monster in your hand like Widget Kid or Balancer Lord, along with summoning out your Lady Debug, you can then have that monster additionally on the field, depending on which one it was. Going for the Link 3 play, you can again have the additional Water Search, Earth Search, or Wind Search, depending on which one you summon out into the field. You can summon out your Xcode Talker or your Transcode Talker, and then with each one respectively, have the Earth Search with Cyanet Codec or the Wind Search, regardless of which one you summon out. You'll then have that monster to make use of for the code play on the field. You can even go for the Xcode play here and the additional monster for that summon when a code monster is special summon to search out your Code Exporter. Then you can use the 2 to Link summon into the additional Link 2 monster, which will be Code Talker Inverted, activating your exporter for the additional search of your monster on the field to then add to your hand the monster recycled back from your graveyard, which can be your microcoder. And then from there, you have the additional setup using your other monsters, depending on what you have in your hand for the search. But don't forget, you also searched and summoned out your Code Talker Inverted. So you can then search out a light monster. That one could be your backup secretary, special summoning onto the field since you control a Cyberse monster. And then from there, go into your Transcode Talker. When this card activates, you can then add Code Generator to your hand, activating Code Talker to special summon a Code Talker back from the graveyard. You can summon out out your X-Code Talker. Using that play for that link summon, you have the code generator in your hand, which you can use with the X-Code Talker, and the code generator to then summon out your Access Code Talker. You can target the X-Code Talker in your graveyard to have it gain 3,000 attack. And with the 3 monsters we made already, 3 different attributes, you have the 3 pops in your graveyard, along with the added effect of code generator being able to then send another card from your deck to the graveyard, sending Dotscaper, which will then special summon on the field, and then you can use the Dotscaper to then either go into Linkaribo, which the Access Code Talker will point to, or Linkaribo if you want to stop traps. But then you'll have that play to use and then swing with your Access Code Talker, which can also be used to then destroy 3 cards on your field, like I said. When I said your field, I meant your opponent's field, obviously. But you also have the play for the setup, as I said, late game, using Heat Soul if your attack points are low, tributing it out to then go for the Splash Mage on the field. And with that play, if you already have the Code Exporter in your graveyard, you can discard another card from your hand to the graveyard to summon out the Code Exporter onto the field, going for the Link 3 play into another monster you may have in your extra deck. And with that play of Code Exporter, since it was on the field, you can special summon another code monster that was in your graveyard, level 4 or lower, into your hand. Or if it was on the field, you can special summon that monster instead, just giving you that resource after resource on the field to then have the potential late game Access Code Talker as well. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. I think the last update I did was the Dark Fluid Cyberse deck, so always happy to update the Code Talker deck, especially with the amount of support we got in the Ghost from the Past set for it. And I hope you all enjoyed as well. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.